So what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first video version of the New Challenger Approaching podcast. It's our third episode together. You can finally see myself and I Pirate King live as we're bringing you commentary for this podcast. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. I actually have I can see your face now. It's beautiful. I love it. It's great. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Your face is very beautiful as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we're going to go ahead and just hop into what's going to happen this week for us because we have a big thing happening. It's going to be today for everyone listening on the podcast. We're hosting our first weekly for Guilty Gear Plus R on Steam. It's open to EU and NA players and South America players as well. So if anyone's interested in playing, I'll have the link in the description where you can find it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and YouTube. And we also have the tournament coming up this Sunday that we've been promoting for the past 2 weeks. Our NCA monthly, where we'll be playing Fantasy Strike. You want to give them a little more info on that, TPK?
Yeah, I'm super stoked. It's the monthly that you're doing. It's for like newer players, right? So lots of new players coming in onto the scene, which I'm excited. I mean, even in my tournaments, I always love seeing new faces, always love seeing new players. So I'm stoked for this one because I'm gonna see basically all new players. So that's always fun. I love people getting into fighting games, trying out tournaments because I do think that's the best way to learn. Just go into a tournament, right? Especially if it's free to enter, right? You lose nothing but your time, right? And you'll have a good time. So you won't even lose your time.
And I just realized I did not press recording on the video side of it on OBS. So welcome, YouTube viewers. You heard a little bit of audio at the beginning, but now you're seeing our video. We're glad to have everyone here this week for this momentous occasion. So the topic for this week's actually going to be kind of relating to the tournament since we have these big tournaments coming up, and they're going to be the first ones that I have hosted personally. And we have a experienced veteran of the FGC here who hosts and runs a lot of tournaments on his own, commentates them by himself, and also co-commentates as well. I wanted to get some of your advice on it. So to start out with, what do you think is like a good thing for a TO to like go into the day thinking?
And that's a very open-ended question. Yeah, I would say like go in like honestly, this might sound like bad, but go in expecting problems. Like go in expecting things to go wrong because if you expect things to go wrong, you'll have backup plans, right? Always think like what am I going to do if something goes wrong, right? And then that'll actually help you prepare for that. Because I hate to say it, but things are going to go wrong. Almost every tournament something's going to go wrong. Now sometimes it's going to be less bad and sometimes it's going to be not as bad, but a lot of times tournaments things sometimes go wrong. Now sometimes they don't, you might get lucky. You might go perfect, right? But sometimes players can't connect, right? Or sometimes they're having trouble figuring out where to go, what to do, right? Sometimes players will even not read the rules, right? And they'll message and say, what am I supposed to be doing? Is this 1v1? Is this 3v3? Is this like what am I doing? Where's my opponent? Where's the bracket? Where's everything at? And it's just like, do you not know this, right? But that's what you have to be prepared for as a TO for the players because I kind of like taking the programmer approach to this actually. So I used to do a lot of coding, and one of the things that we learned as coders was that always assume that the user knows nothing. Always assume that the players know nothing, right? So always
Yeah,
assume that they have no idea what the rules are, so that you're always prepared for that. Yeah.
it's actually a really good approach to things, I think, because I did some coding as well. And thinking about it, that applies to a lot of things in life. sometimes, sometimes it gets really bad, but I'll definitely have to, make sure I notify all the players about the rules and how everything works. Now, another big question I have for you is about the Twitch side of things. When you're streaming everything live, how do you necessarily go about like picking out games that are going to go on stream? I know you usually do like double elimination tournaments, so they have top eights and winner side, loser side. But for our Fantasy Strike tournament, it's going to be a Swiss system. Have you ever ran a tournament like that? And how did you go about like picking your matches to show on stream if you streamed them?
So for Fantasy Strike, like you said, I do the double elimination tournaments. So for double elimination, you usually stream like all of top eight, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how long the tournament is going, you might only stream winner's side top eight. I have actually done a few Swiss tournaments for Fantasy Strike as well, actually, so I have a little bit of experience with it. The way that I generally go about picking matches is pick the match. So it's a little easier sometimes with double elimination, right? Because the longer the tournament goes, you have more good matches to pick from, right? Because like the players are winning. Now with Swiss, you still have that, right? You still have good matches to watch. You just have it's just a different system, right? So for example, in Swiss, if people don't know, if you win a match in Switch, the next round that you play, you'll play against someone else who also won. So you won't play against someone who lost, right? So it's kind of similar to double elimination in that sense, right? But your record always is the same, right? So if you say you're 3-0, right, in a Swiss tournament, you've won 3 games and you haven't lost any, your next opponent that you play is probably also 3-0. And if they're not 3-0, they might be like 2-1 or like they might have had a bye, right? But they're probably close to you. So what I would suggest for the Swiss tournaments is just keep an eye out for the win and loss ratios. And I would say follow the winners, right? You don't always have to follow the winners because you do want to have a little bit of variety as well. But what you can do is, I mean, especially with this newer tournament, right? It's a lot of new players, so you'll probably have a decent variety of players that are winning and losing. So you could say, hold maybe 2, 3 matches per round, depending on how long you want the tournament to go, right? Because if you hold 3 matches and there's 4 matches in the round, right? Well, that's going to make it go longer, right? So the less matches you hold, the faster it'll go in Swiss because everyone's playing at the same time in Swiss because there's no losers bracket, right? In a double elimination tournament, when someone loses, they actually have to wait, right? So when you lose a match or when you win a match in double elimination, you have to wait for your next opponents to finish their matches. In Swiss, though, everyone just plays at the same time every round, right? So when the next round starts, everyone already has an opponent, so it kind of goes a little faster sometimes, right? Um, Now again, this is where the holding matches comes, right? Because if you hold a match, that's what slows down the Swiss tournaments. So I would suggest, depending on how big the tournament is, I think we have a decent sized tournament for the Fantasy Strike one. So yeah, I'd say maybe hold 2, maybe 3 matches per round. And then I know that sometimes I've heard people say that for Swiss you can like watch all of one round, like or not like the first round, but the last round of the tournament. You could like watch a lot of the matches. Um, I personally don't like that. I think it's probably best to just go hold 2 or 3 matches per round. And then specifically, you can pick out the matches that you think are going to be good matches, right? Because you want to have good matches on stream, right? And the players that are winning are probably going to be the best matches, right?
Yeah, and actually, one of our mods and TOs helping me run this, Sora, good friend of ours, um, they actually told me to do a thing on challenge where you can make it like, say it's a best of 3 series. You can separate each like victory into like the single games. So it'll be like if someone won the first game and lost the last two, it would go as a 1-2 to the other person, and it would seed you based on that instead of just okay, winner loser. It would seed you more specifically on you won this many games as well. So you won the first round, lost the second round, but you won one match in it in a best of 3. We're gonna place you against someone who also did the same thing.
Okay, yeah, no, I actually kind of like that. I didn't realize that you could do that with challenge. Yeah, no, I'd say go for that if you're willing to take the time to actually do that. Obviously, recognizing that you'd have to do a little bit more work with that, right? Because
Yeah.
you'd have to make sure that they're reporting the exact wins. But yeah, no, I'd say go for it. Usually the players, after the round or two, they figure out how they're supposed to be reporting things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
after like the first round or two, it'll start running smoother. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because that would actually give you even better seeds as the tournament goes on, right? Because if say I've won 3 rounds, right? 3 of my matches, but in each of those matches I lost a game, right? Well, that's going to be a different, a different seeding than if I had won all of the rounds, right? Won all of the games. So that's pretty cool. Now, is this this is 1v1, right? Or is it 3v3 for the Fantasy Strike one?
We're doing it 3v3 as like a traditional rank style, and from what I've heard, it's how most majors run their tournaments for Fantasy Strike. So I wanted to go on that route because I do want to make it a beginner friendly, but I also want to make it as true to the real competitive scene of whatever game we pick as possible.
No, I like that idea. I'm a big 3v3 fans. I mean, all my tournaments are 3v3. And then yeah, like you said, all of the majors for fans have been 3v3. There were a few that were 1v1 a long time ago. But ever like we do 3v3s now for majors. There was like one tournament that was a 1v1 for a major recently. I personally disagreed with it, but hey, it wasn't my tournament, so
Mhm.
I just commentated for it. I was like, hey, if you want to do 1v1, go for it. But yeah, 3v3 is the norm for Fantasy Strike. It's the ranked mode for Fantasy Strike. So I like that you're going 3v3. It also adds a bit more variety, right? It makes sure that people aren't, they can't just main a character, right? They
Hmm.
gotta branch out, and I think that's good for new players as well. It's good to sort of experience more of the roster, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I could, as a beginner myself at Fantasy Strike, I could see a lot of players picking like Rook or something and just Rook v Rook all the way through the bracket. So we don't want that. So
Yeah, I know.
he's for anyone who hasn't played Fantasy Strike before, Rook is the main grappling character in the game. I have a feeling you will see a lot of him Sunday, but that's because at the low levels he's very strong, and as you get to the higher levels and figure out how to zone him out, and he's basically, if you can get in, you win because you have mix ups, but if you can't get in, you don't win because you can't get your mix ups. And I just know I've faced a lot of him on ladder, trying to gain some knowledge for the commentary. He's definitely one character I kind of know that I can talk about on Sunday.
Yeah, I know. Rook is, yeah, like Eric was saying, yeah, Rook is just it's funny because like you said, he's one of the worst characters in the game actually. But at the lower level he's very strong because he's got a big life pool, right?
Hmm.
And if you don't know how to keep him out, like you said, the moment he gets in, if he has you in Oki, it's a 33 33 33 mix up. Like you got to guess, like that's, your 66% chance likelihood of not getting the right
Hmm.
choice, right? And then there's even better ways of mixing you up too. Like it's technically, a 1/3 chance of passing, but it's not really that because they could do like a meaty neutral A like on wake up, and then that kind of messes up your mindset too. Or they could like neutral A you and you blocked it, right?
Hmm.
But if you're in the corner, well, now they have a chance to throw you after you blocked it. So it's like, okay, well, now you have to guess again. You have to Yomi counter or jump or block again, right? So it's just terrible. Just don't get into the corner with Rook. But he's really bad because just play Geiger, you know. Who's a zoner character? He's Guile if, from Street Fighter. If anyone doesn't know who Geiger is, yeah.
I have a feeling that anyone who hasn't played Fantasy Strike, who's just watching it for the first time, will find a lot of interesting points to the game, especially Yomi counters. That's one thing that it's hard to adjust with because my first game was like SF5, so you gotta, or my first game I played for more than a week at a time. I said this yesterday in the Discord, and you have to tech throws with the throw button. So if you try to do that in Fantasy Strike, you still get thrown because the technical tech is not pressing a button at all. So I definitely think that's going to be fun for the some of the viewers out there who aren't interested or have not played the game themselves and are interested in learning about it.
Yeah, I know it's definitely a different mind game in Fantasy Strike. That's why I love it though because one of the coolest moments in Fantasy Strike is that when two players just stand there and look at each other. Like because if anyone doesn't know, the way that you counter a throw in Fantasy Strike is you press no buttons. You just take your hands off the controller, right? So in Fantasy Strike, you'll sometimes see top tier players. They'll be in a situation where for like a split second, or even sometimes I've seen it for like a full second, they're just standing there, looking at each other menacingly, daring the opponent to throw them, right? And then something happens, and then you get back into the action, right? Either someone gets thrown, someone gets yomied, or someone gets hit, right? Or sometimes they just back away from each other, right? Sometimes those back away. So it's a really really cool concept, and it really does add another level, I think, to the mind games because it's very rewarding if you counter a throw in Fantasy Strike because you get Oki, you get your super meter back, and you do a point of damage, and you also get out of a bad situation. But if they don't throw you, you're probably gonna eat, one, two, maybe even three damage, and you might get an Oki now. Like they might have Oki on you. So it's a very interesting, powerful option with a lot of. There's some tech to it too, but I won't get too much into that since I know that this isn't about Fantasy Strike tech, but it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it kind of led us down a path that we could have went on for hours about Fantasy Strike in the game, and I feel like you can do that with any fighting game. But let's move it back to the TOing side of it because I still do have a lot of questions and a lot of things that I need to learn because we talked a little bit yesterday, and you were saying that as a TO, you can't really practice it. You just have to do it, and that's how you have to learn. So I'm trying to learn now through your experience that you have had in the past. So another question that I have is about like how you run how you get the matches scheduled like in Discord and everything. Do you have a separate channel for it? How do you like call matches and just how do you generally keep things organized in this like online era of TOing?
Yeah, so first off, I want to say that generally, every TO is going to do things differently, right? Every TO is going to have their own way of organizing things and keeping things in track. And generally, you'll figure out what works best for you as you do it more, right? Now, the way that I do it personally, excuse me, the way that I do it personally is I have a tournament chat channel, right? Where it's just that's where the players can chat and that's where they can find their opponents. That's where they can do all that, right? They can say, they can at mention their opponents, you can at mention them, all of that good stuff. And then I have another channel as well called match reporting, right? Or match reports or reporting matches or whatever you want to call it, right? So there's a channel where they can specifically go to report their matches. So it's actually really useful if they use it. Sometimes they don't use it because again, this goes back to the thing, right? Players don't always listen, right? Um, but generally, if they use it, it's really useful because you can just go to that channel and people will at mention the TO. They'll be like, at Eric McGrill, right? Like at McGrill, TPK wins over Leontis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Leontis wins over TPK, right? And they can report the score. They can at mention you, and you can see that notification in the or in the match reporting channel, right? You can just go there. You can look at it. You can report their score for them, and then you can go back to doing what you need to do. So that's generally how I keep it organized. As for keeping matches organized for streaming, that's another thing. Generally, you want to at mention the players and say, hey, we're gonna hold your matches, right? Like your match, like hold your match for stream, right? Like don't play your match. I'll tell you when you can play your match, and as long as they're paying attention to the Discord, they'll be fine. Like they'll just wait, and then you can just at mention them, be like, I'll just use my name again at TPK at Leontis. You two are up on stream, right? And then you hop into you hop in and spectate one of them or a lobby depending on the game you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
They play each other, you watch them, and then after that match, you can report their score because you just watched it, and then you at mention the next player. Say at Leontis 1 at TPK 2, you two are playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just continue like that. Now generally for double elimination specifically, you have to do it like kind of constantly because they're constantly like the winner side is constantly moving forward and the
Mm-hmm.
loser side is constantly moving forward, so you have to do it in real time. For
Mm-hmm.
Swiss, you actually have a little bit more leeway, I think, because you have a round. So when that first round starts, you can just say, okay, I'm going to hold you, you, and you, right? And everyone else can play. And then after that first round, for the second round, you can take a look at who's in the second round and everything and who they're playing against after you start the second round. And you can just say, don't start your matches for a few minutes, take a look at it, and say, okay, we're going to hold you, you, and you, and then now everyone else start, right? So you have a little bit more leeway with Swiss, I would say. You just got to let the players know that, just wait a minute so that we can find our next match for stream. And then you find it, and then you're good to go. But yeah, generally just having good communication with your players, making sure that they know what they're doing, making sure that they actually play their matches when they're not on stream. I have noticed sometimes players sometimes they don't play their matches, like they think that they're on stream or they think that they have to hold it. So what I usually do is I just always say, everyone play unless I told you not to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like just play your match, just go, right? For double elimination, I usually just say, everyone play your matches unless I ask you to hold your match for stream or if you're top 8, right? And then generally players know, okay, if I get to top 8, I'm going to wait, right? And then if I'm asked to hold, I'm also going to wait. And generally players are pretty good about that, at least in the Fantasy Strike community. I rarely have issues with that. I've had a few issues. I won't name names of players who I've had issues with, but yeah, there's been some issues, but that's just the nature of any tournament. There's always going to be a few little hiccups here and there, but you just got to keep going, right? You just got to say, okay, there's a problem here. Let's just keep moving forward, right?
Definitely. Another thing I was wondering is, did you run any tournaments before like COVID hit? And like if you did, or even if you just attended them, were there what are the significant differences between running an offline tournament and then running one in this like online era?
Yeah, so I did. I ran it very poorly. It was horrible, and I did a very bad job. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into it. Yeah. So I've been to fighting game tournaments. The main tournaments that I've actually been to personally, like playing in physically, was Magic the Gathering tournaments. I love card games, so I used to enter Magic the Gathering tournaments and Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments like all the time, right? I would enter these consistently, like every week, and I would even go to like different cities and different not states, but different cities, different counties, and just play Magic the Gathering, play Yu-Gi-Oh. It was a lot of fun. Now for fighting games, of course it's a little different because again, fighting games are usually double elimination,
Mm-hmm.
while card games are usually Swiss,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a different. Now I did enter a Smash Brothers Ultimate tournament, which was I think that was my first. Oh, I'm sorry, it was a Smash. It was Smash Ultimate, yeah, Smash Ultimate. I entered a tournament for that game, and I think it was my first fighting game tournament I ever entered. And like it was me and some of my friends from university. We just drove up there because one of my friends from the Navy had come back to hang out with us, and we knew him from university as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a really good Smash player. So I mentioned it to him. I was like, hey, like there's a tournament. You want to come with me? And he was like, yeah, sure. And we got my whole friends to go. It was like $10 to enter. And yeah, the way that it was run, they didn't actually do that good of a job. They were they were trying to they basically had like two tournaments running at the same time,
Yeah.
but they didn't have enough computers, or not computers,
Oh,
but they didn't have enough
setups.
systems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this is where like online tournaments are actually sometimes better
Mm-hmm.
because you actually you have the systems,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Of
Because
course.
it's
Yeah.
online, right? With it when it's physical, you actually don't always know you have the systems because if more people enter than you expect, well, it's going to take a longer time. And this is actually why double elimination is used for fighting game tournaments because um, of the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in double elimination, after 2 rounds, I think it's what a third of the players are out of the tournament.
Yeah.
They're just eliminated because a half of the tournament's going to go 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how double elimination works. But yeah, so I entered the tournament, and the way it was run was basically I think what they did was they printed off the matches, like
Mm-hmm.
the actual matches on a piece of paper. They might have even had a challenge bracket list that you could have looked at, but they printed them off and they put them on a wall, and then you would go up there and you would find your name, right? And you would find your table, and then you would go to that table, and then you would wait for your opponent to show up, right? This is also how card game tournaments do it. And yeah, and you just wait, and then you play your match, and then you report your score, and then you wait till the next round, right, where they post that thing. Now, for the tournament I ran, first ever tournament I ran was also a Super Smash Brothers Ultimate tournament. At an anime convention actually. I went to an anime convention, and it was really awesome. Where I went to the game room, and this convention they always ran tournaments like fighting game tournaments and stuff and other kinds of tournaments in the game hall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were I think that they were running a melee tournament. I know that they were running a melee tournament, but they had canceled the Smash Ultimate tournament, right? And I had learned about this. And I was talking, and I met a lot of friends there. Like I was talking to a lot of people there. I was like, hey guys, like would you guys be interested in like me like running a Smash Ultimate tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone in the room was like, yeah, we'd love to do a Smash Ultimate tournament. And we found out that, we had about maybe 20 or 22 players who were interested in doing a Smash Ultimate tournament, right? There weren't going to be any prizes or anything. It was just going to be for fun. So I chatted with some of the volunteers at the convention that were running some of the stuff. I was like, hey, is it okay? Is it cool like if I do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they even said, yeah, it's cool. Do you need like monitors? And I said, oh yeah, like that'd be awesome. Like, can we get some monitors? Like, can we borrow some monitors for this? And they said, yeah, yeah, we got you, right? And then they got us some monitors. And it was awesome. It really made me love the FGC because every player we didn't have switches for the tournament, but the players had switches. So all the players came together, and we set up everyone's switches, and we were borrowing switches and borrowing controllers, and it was just a blast. What went wrong about it though was because I didn't run the brackets correctly. Like
Oh.
I was trying to like call out the names of people, right? Instead of just like telling them to go
The
to the
table.
or yeah, go to a table or something, or just so I kind of messed that up. But what I fixed it by just saying, okay, guys, here's the challenge link. Just find your opponent yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Another thing that was a hiccup as well. We thought only like 22 people were gonna join. By the time it started, we had like 50 or 55 people. it was insane. Like there were so the game room itself only had like I think maybe 30 or 40 people in it before the Smash tournament started.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that started, it was packed. We had like 50 people in this small little room for Smash Ultimate because we decided to start like, a few hours later, right? A few hours after I had announced it. And it spread like wildfire, right? They were telling all their friends about it, and they were bringing people in to play Smash Ultimate because there's a tournament now. So we got like 50 people, but it went great. It was rough at the beginning, but it got better because people. I also had some friends helping me. Some of my friends from university, they also helped me run it as well. And people would like come to me with their scores and matches. There was even a moment where I had to pull out I had to pull out my phone. I think I have it's a Galaxy Note, so I could write things.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some players that had come into the game room, and they were asking if they could enter the Smash Ultimate tournament, but it had already started, right? But again, it was a free to enter tournament. I was like, you know what? Like these guys want to play. I'll just put you in losers bracket, right? I'll just
Mm-hmm.
put you in the losers bracket. But because of that, I had to like I started losing internet a few times as well, so I had to like use my phone to like write out the brackets for losers bracket, and I was doing it manually with like drawings and stuff, and it was terrible. But it was crazy. I think the tournament lasted for like 3 or 4 hours, and the con even gave us a prize as well. After they saw it, they gave us an Inuyasha DVD set for the prize for the first place, and then the second place got like a I don't know. It was like it wasn't the Inuyasha prize was the good one. The second place prize wasn't that good, but it was so fun. I was so tired by the end of it, and like that was essentially my entire con experience, or at least that day, was just running that tournament. But I would not have. I don't regret it. It was one of my most fun experiences, and it taught me a lot. Like it taught me what not to do. It really helped me out running a real in life person tournament. But yeah, most of the tournaments I've run have been online, so that's sort of my expertise there. But I think they're similar, just not exactly the same. But I've been talking for a while. I'm so sorry. That was a very long story. I apologize, McGrill. Very sorry about that. I'll let you go for a bit now.
No, it's all good. I enjoyed listening to the story. I'm sure the audience did as well. It's definitely what we're about, providing entertaining content here, whether it's from myself or from UTPK. So don't feel bad about talking for a while. Basically, one thing your story reminded me of is the Smash documentary, the famous scene where Scar is like TV, laptop, and he's having to go. It shows the whole setup process of. I don't remember what event it was, but it was one of the bigger events from back in the day. Uh, and that kind of reminded me of that when you mentioned the monitors in Smash. It just brought back good memories to my head from the times of old. But onto another question I have is how like do you go about connecting with the people who help you in your tournaments, like people who help TO, people who help commentate, or maybe someone who like a sponsor who provides the prize, or like a charity or anything like that. How do you go about contacting them and saying, hey, we're running a tournament for this video game, how can we help you out, or you help us out, or make it like a reasonable trade here?
Yeah, so I won't lie. I've gotten a bit lucky. I actually sometimes I get messaged by people sometimes to help out with Fantasy Strike tournaments. So like for because I've been doing the Fantasy Strike tournament 3v3 weekly for so long, like people just know me in the community. And I know that Leontis has like vouched for me before as well. And if you guys don't know who Leontis is, he runs my brackets personally, but he actually works for Sterling Games. He's sort of their media director. He like runs the Twitter and all that stuff. So sometimes like quarterly report, for example, I got in on that because Leontis vouched for me. He was like, hey, like TPK runs tournaments, like he'd probably be up for like doing the streaming, and obviously I was, right? Now for reaching out to other people myself, honestly I just message people, right? Like I honestly just take the first, like I did it with you, right? I messaged you. If you guys don't know, the way that I met McGrill was I heard about the tournament. I saw it in the Fantasy Strike events page on the Discord channel, in the channel there on the Discord server, and I saw it, and I also saw it on Reddit. I saw that Eric D. Red, who's a friend of mine, who also he's a mod on the Reddit page. He's a great guy, and I saw that he posted about this tournament. So since I know Eric, I messaged him. Well, not this Eric, the Eric D. Red.
Getting a
to
little
Eric.
confusing now.
Yeah, but you're also wearing a red shirt. It's terrible. Like, oh man. Um, but no, I messaged Eric D. Red. I was like, yo, like who's running this tournament, right? Like where can I find them? Like I'd love to see if they'd be up for me commentating. And Eric was like, oh, it's Eric McGrill, and like, you know, you need to message him and everything. I was like, oh, cool. So I joined your server, and then I found you at the top list, obviously, since it's your server. I clicked on your name, I clicked message, and I said, hey, like, can I commentate for your tournament? I'd love to do it, right? Like free commentary, you know, I'm not asking for anything. And you said yes, and that was how that started. Um, I've done it for other ones as well, like for oh, what was it? What was that tournament? Oh yeah, there was a oh no, I got no, they messaged me for that tournament, for the GME tournament. But I've definitely messaged commentators before, like asking people if they want to commentate with me. So like Jourdain, who also runs Fantasy Strike tournaments. I've messaged him about helping out with commentary. Izzy Flo, I've messaged if he wants to commentate before. Agoners or Remy, he actually has his own stuff as well. He does streaming for Fantasy Strike. He's a really cool guy. He's actually from the EU. But yeah, honestly, like the way I do it is I just message people. You know, worst thing they can say is no, right? Like worst thing they can say is no. As for it being mutually beneficial, I mean, it really just I just say, do you want to help, right? Like I don't have tons of money to give people, right? So it's really all help. But the way I say it is, and I honestly mean this, right? So if people help me, I will help them, right? Like I always tell them, like if you help me, like because you help me with like volunteering, commentate, or help me run my tournament, if you need me for something, like send me a message, right? Like if you need me to help run one of your tournaments, or if you need me to help like on a podcast, or like if you need me for something, just message me, and like I'm happy to do it. Um, and I really mean that, like because if I feel like in the FGC, a lot of it is volunteer work. A lot of it is people just taking their time to help. And the way that I think that we thrive is that um, if you ask someone to help you, you need to be willing to help them, right? I think that's a decent thing to do, right? If they help you voluntarily, if they take their time out of their day to help you, you need to help them as well, right? Um, so that's my big thing. Just be willing to help them if they help you, right? And that's a big thing that I think more people. I think most people do that. I think most people are willing to do that. And yeah, when people ask me to help, like I'm there, right? Obviously, like people have asked me to help for things that I already want to do, like for for Fantasy Strike tournaments. Like when I get messaged about Anime Evo, and they're like, "Do you want to do the Anime Evo?" I was like, "Of course I want to do the Anime Evo." It's like, "You want to do Frosty Fostings?" Of course I want to do Frosty Fostings, right? But it's like I'm still there to help, right? Like, and I help, like you know, I'll run the stream, I'll do all that stuff, right? So yeah, just be willing to mutually help each other, right? And most of the time, people will be willing to help you. You know, if you never help them though, they'll probably stop helping you. All right, so yeah.
That's actually a thing that's been going on in our Discord today. Even is with our Guilty Gear. Our Guilty Gear has kind of been popping off. A lot of people on the server tend to like to play a plus R right now because of rollback and everything. And it was on sale for like $3 a couple weeks ago, so lots of people picked it up. And there was a beginners tournament in the plus R Discord that we had some players participating in, and they've been sharing their matches and giving feedback in each other for everyone's matches. Really, they've been posting it to YouTube, putting the link in, especially because I was like, look, I have a tournament that I'm having to commentate on Thursday, and I barely know anything about the game. I need some games to analyze, please. If you guys can send them my way, it'd be super appreciated. And then they sent them my way, and everyone just started, these are good things you did, these are bad things you did. Oh, I play this character, here's what you need to do in this matchup. Here's what you did great in this matchup, certain things like that. And they've just been doing that and helping each other out. It's a huge thing in the FGC. You definitely have to, if you're going to take, you definitely have to give back, or it's not going to work out for anybody.
That's 100% true. And something I had noticed, I think that players are more willing to like help TOs out as well. Because they understand like if you're a player, not every player understands if you're newer to the FGC, but like people who have been in the FGC for a while, they understand that running tournaments is tough. Like it's a long process. Like it is. I don't want to say it's like the hardest job in the world, right? But depending on the size of the tournament, it can be long, and it can be and you can have issues, right? I'll reference Anime Evo, right? When I did that tournament, I literally was sitting at my chair commentating for roughly 6 hours. Like the stream was for a 6 hour stream. Like we had breaks, we had like 15-minute, and I think we had 2 or 3 15-minute breaks, right? So we had a 15-minute break before top 32, and then a 15-minute break before top 16, and then I think we had like a 5 or 10-minute break before top 8, right? So we had breaks, but aside from those few breaks, it was a 6 hour tournament, like just straight 6 hours. I was commentating the entire time. At the end, my voice was dead. I didn't feel awful, like I felt hyped, but I also felt like drained, right? So I think people in the FGC, they understand that they're willing to help out TOs because the TOs are the ones that are giving them a place to play, right? They're giving them a place to play the tournaments and stuff. And honestly, like, you know, I honestly, I do it because I love it. Like, I love the players. I'm just happy they're happy. Like, if the players are having a good time, I'll keep running tournaments, I've always told people that, right? Like, yeah, it's just about persistence, man. It's just about persistence and trying to make people happy, That's my goal at least. I want to make people happy enjoying the tournaments. But yeah, people are happy to help out most of the time, just be nice, right? Like being nice goes so far. We were talking about this a bit last night. I won't get into it, but like be nice to people. Like if you're nice to people, like they're more willing to help you, right? Um and yeah, help them too, right? People need help, help them out as well. So it's my 2 cents or 5 minutes, right? Sorry.
No, you're good. I actually enjoy listening to you talk. I feel like it's a good dynamic that we kind of have right now because I tend to like to ask questions and then listen to someone's response and try to soak all of the knowledge in. And you tend to have a lot of knowledge on the subjects that I'm talking about. So I'm gaining a lot of knowledge. I'm sure the audience is gaining a lot of knowledge, and it's mutually beneficial because you're getting to talk like
Uh,
you want to. I'm getting to gain knowledge, and so is the audience. But I definitely agree with the making the players happy point. I think if you don't have happy players, you're not gonna have tournaments, and you're not gonna even have a player base. So they're the first priority. And with the approach I want to take, at least for now, with the new tournaments, I do want to later on expand and keep the new tournaments, but also add some for more experienced players with possibly prize pots or, charity donations or whatever. But for now, while I'm trying to learn and keeping it at like a new player level, I think the most important thing is actually like trying to be involved with the community, getting close with the players. So that way, if you do make a mistake, they won't just come at you and be like, "Oh, I'm never playing in your tournament again." They'll be like, "Hey, buddy, here's what you did wrong. Here's how we need to fix it." They'll probably even try to help you fix it. And making friends is a big thing. I'm sure you were saying that before too. You're basically saying like making friends and being on the good side of players is always where you're trying to be. So if you can keep on the good side of players, then the tournaments will always run smoother because you won't have people trying to go against you. You always have people trying to help you out. And if you say, "Hey, I need to go get food real quick. Can you, enter these games in for me?" Yeah, sure, no problem. Just bring me like a burger too, something like that.
yeah, no, it's for my Fantasy Strike tournaments. Obviously, I mean, again, they're open for everyone. It's not just new players, but I sometimes get new players in who it's like their first time ever being in a tournament, like straight up, like their first tournament, like not just for Fantasy Strike, just ever, right? And you be patient with your players, right? Especially if they're new. Like, I think that's I've seen TOs, well, not really TOs. I've seen people just not be patient with players or just human beings in general. And it's just that just pushes people away, right? You have to be patient, right? Even in the worst situations, you just got to try and be patient, right? Obviously, we're not perfect, right? We're not going to always be perfectly patient, but you at least try, right? Now, yeah, but like I was saying, I've had some new players enter my tournaments, and really cool. I'll shout her out, Janet. Janet's a great player in the Fantasy Strike community, and in one of my tournaments or in all my tournaments, she's always helping out every now and then. Like she's not even a TO. She plays in the tournament, but if someone asks a question in the Discord, she's been playing in a lot of my tournaments and just tournaments in general for Fantasy Strike. She usually knows the answer, so she'll answer it for us, like for me and Leontas, who are the actual TOs, which is a big help, right? And she does that because she likes the tournament series and she just likes Fantasy Strike, right? She likes how things are run, so she wants to help out, and it's absolutely amazing. Rook Hugger also sometimes helps us as well. In general, the players just they're willing to help if they know, right? And they're willing to help if they know that you are trying your best and things are going well, right? So big props to TOs as well as to the players who help the TOs, right? It's a big thing. So
And to add on to that point, if you're a player and you're in these tournaments and things are kind of getting behind or bogged down, you see that in Discord chat and like the moderator isn't getting to everything. If you see something important that they may have missed, maybe point it out to them, reply and at the moderator or direct message them and be like, "Hey, look, this is important, an important question someone has. You may have missed it." And it'll help us out, it'll help you guys out, and it'll just make everything a lot more enjoyable for everybody. That's just my 2 cents on from the players' side.
yeah, no, absolutely. I one thing on the TO side, by the way, since I know that you're you're kind of new to like doing TO,
Mhm.
this is a big thing. Be willing to take advice and take criticism, and be willing to change when people who maybe have more experience are giving you tips, right? I'll actually give an example. Jordane's tournaments, right? Like Jordan and Sin Prototype. By the way, I love their tournaments. They're great, right? But when they first started, they were both a bit new to running tournaments, right? And I messaged them and I like I sent them like a paragraph of just like, hey, like this is what I think that you should do different, right? Because they're like their tournament was going a little bit too long, right? Like they had like a fairly smaller tournament and like it went for like 5 hours, right? And they were even wondering how can we like lower the time, right? So I sent them this message and I was like, hey guys, and I wasn't like rude about it, right? But I sent it. I was very calm. I was like, hey guys, like I think that you should do like this, and this, right? Like do these things, change a little bit how you're doing like the how you're running, how you're holding your matches for commentary. Do these few things and it should help out, right? And they took my advice and it helped, right? It helped their tournament, right? And I'm not saying I know everything, right? But like after running things for a while, you get to a groove, right? You kind of know what how things should be run, right? Um, and again, it's I don't even do it perfectly, but there are some specific things for tournaments, for especially for fighting game tournaments, that are just kind of standard. And if you follow these standard practices, it can sometimes make your tournament a lot better, right? For example, don't do best of fives in actually I don't know if you're doing this actually. Don't run best of fives for 3v3 Fantasy Strike tournaments. Or best
Mhm.
of threes, should I say. Don't it should always just be one match. Because if you run a best of three, even for like grand finals for a Fantasy Strike tournament for 3v3, it makes it go so long, right? Because I've had newer TOs be like, should we do a best of three? And I have to be like, no, don't do that, right? Now, if it's 1v1, you can do a best of three, but don't do best of five for all of top eight. Do best of five for just the finals, right? Because if you do it for all of top eight, it's going to be super long, right? Um, so just these little things, right? That and it sounds I'm sure a lot of people maybe know this, but sometimes people don't know this, right? So you have to be willing to take the advice and change. Like I took a lot of advice, right? I was terrible. If you go watch my first tournament for Fantasy Strike, I mean it wasn't terrible, but it was like kind of grimy, right? It was still loose, right? It wasn't perfect, right? But now it's like, yeah, then even when Leonsis isn't helping me, it's like I kind of just know what to do now. It's just like, yep, message the players, they're good to go. We're holding this match, we're watching this match. You get into the groove after a while. You just have to do it, right? I think we mentioned at the beginning, you just gotta go, right? Best way to learn is to practice, right? And the best, or not to practice, but to actually do it, right? To actually get in and run a tournament. Now, what I would suggest is have someone who does have a little bit of experience, helping you along, right? That's not always possible. When I first ran my first Fantasy Strike tournament, I didn't have anyone. It was just me. I didn't really have that many people like that I knew who were TOs, right? But over time, I met people who were TOs. I talked to them. They helped me out. I learned from Leontis a lot. Like I learned a whole lot from Leontis about how to run a top 8, right? I learned from other players how to like do commentary. Like you learn as you go and you'll grow, but you have to be willing to change, right? If you're stagnant, if you think that you're always right, um, you're not going to learn. You're just going to push people away, right? You have to be willing to change and to accept criticism, right? Um, well, constructive criticism, right? Some people are just rude, but most people will give you good criticism if you're willing to listen. So,
Yeah, I definitely think I lucked out because I'll have Sora helping me. I'll have you. Sora's also going to be running a second stream. I'll figure out how to link that in the comments for everyone, but that way we will be able to show 2 matches per round instead of just one. It'll get our players a little bit more exposure and everything, so that'll be really nice. Um, but yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us today. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to, put in real quick before I outro us?
man, putting me on the spot here. Let me think. Let me. I had something in my mind that I wanted
I
to
have one.
say.
I have one for you. Follow his
Oh, you
Twitter.
yeah, follow me on Twitter. Yeah, thy pirate king everywhere. No, I think one thing I'd say is just, um, if you want to run tournaments, don't be afraid, right? Like it's not gonna go. It might not go perfect the first time, but don't be afraid. Like just do it, right? The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't go that well, right? But even if it doesn't go that well, if you tried to make it go well, the players are going to notice that. So even if it doesn't run well, the players are going to realize, hey, at least you tried, right? Like at least you tried to give us something in COVID, right? Like obviously with COVID, right? Like we can't play at local game stores, right? So it's like at least you're trying, and I think that goes a long way in the FGC and just tournaments in general. So if anyone wants to run tournaments, just give it a go. You mentioned how you kind of lucked out. For me personally, like whenever I see a new person on the scene for specifically Fantasy Strike, that's kind of my main scene. That's where I know a lot of stuff, right? Whenever I see new people coming onto the scene, I'm just like I want to help them because I know what it's like to start with nothing, right? To not have that sort of help, and I want to help them because eventually I got help. Like Leontis helped me out with like running brackets. And I've had people like help me on commentary, right? They'll message me and be like, "Hey, like, you want to help? Can I help on commentary and stuff?" Right? And I have people who I know that we don't have time to get into commentary, right? But in my opinion, one of the best ways to learn commentary as well is to actually do commentary, right? But I think one of the even better ways to do it is do commentary with someone who can do commentary already. Like it's like a mentor thing, right? Like
Hmm.
like have a mentor with commentary, right? I even am not perfect at commentary. I was actually after Frosty Fallstings, like they said that they loved my commentary, but they were like, hey, like I think that you could maybe improve on a few things, right? And I was like, oh great, like send me the information so I can get better at this, right?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, have someone there. Like what I do is for my weeklies, I kind of let most people commentate. Like if you want to commentate for my weekly, um, if I know you, like I'll probably let you do it, right? Because I think that's a really good platform to do it because it's not a major, there's no money on the line, and I know Fantasy Strike very well and I commentate by myself a lot. So if I'm commentating with someone and like they're kind of struggling a little bit, I can just pick it up, right? I can just do it, right? I can just go for it. So that's a good way to learn commentary as well. It's just have someone there to help you, right? Because um it's sometimes rough, right? When you're first starting out and you don't know what to say, right? So it's good to have someone else there to sort of help out, right? But again, just comes with practice. You just got to do it. Just got to go in there and get it done. And you're gonna fail sometimes, but hey, you're never gonna succeed if you don't fail. What was it, Dream On? I think that's a line from Dream On. I've been listening to music a lot recently, and Dream On has a line like that, like you can't win without losing. What is it? I don't remember. I'll look up the lyrics after this.
Well, that has been it for us today for the NCA podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We definitely appreciate, and girls, we definitely appreciate everyone who's tuned in to us. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcast, and YouTube, as well as Anchor. And we will be linking everything in the description as always. It's going to be a big weekend for us. Like I said, tomorrow I'm hosting the first Guilty Gear Weekly. and Saturday you're hosting your usual Fantasy Strike Weekly, and then we are co-commentating together for the NCA Monthly and Fantasy Strike Sunday. So it's gonna be a nice, fun weekend. But I've definitely enjoyed the conversation. Got a lot of notes to take. Thanks for all the advice.
Yeah, I hope I helped out in some way. It's gonna be great. I'm stoked. I'm stoked. Big love to everyone. That's a
All
horrible heart.
right. All right, you guys. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in.